Welcome back to Dinner Made Easy with Dina. Today I am going to show you how to make a nice, warm, cozy bowl of homemade clam chowder. So let's get going. Hey guys, it's perfect weather for that nice, warm bowl of homemade clam chowder. And I'm going to show you how to pull that together today. It's not a hard recipe and it's absolutely delicious. So stay with me and let's go get that clam chowder. So far, what I've done is I've prepped one large onion, and I just cut it into small pieces, as you can see. I have about 1/4 cup of diced celery, and it's really finely diced because you don't want to have big chunks of celery in your clam chowder. And then I have 4 large potatoes, and I have russet potatoes, and I'm going to chop those up into small pieces, just like that. Hey, here's a little hint for you. Make sure you're putting your potatoes in a bowl of cold water as you're cutting them. Now, the hardest part about this recipe is all the chopping and dicing that you're going to do. And I just figured you guys probably know how to chop up an onion. It's actually diced, and how to fine dice some celery. So I went ahead and did that before I started recording. I just wanted to show you the large size of potatoes and that I am putting it in cold water to keep them from turning brown. Next, I'm going to be slicing some bacon, but just a little tip, make sure your bacon is partly frozen. It makes it so much easier to cut. And I used about 1/4 package of this bacon, so not a whole lot of bacon, and it is sliced one direction, so I'm just slicing it the opposite direction, and then I'm just going to break it apart before I put it into the pan. Now, the recipe that I'm making today is plenty for 4 to 6 people, and I am going to be using my Dutch oven, so it does make a good sized pot. And voila, just like magic, we have our bacon all taken care of. Now what we're going to do is get that started in our Dutch oven. I do have the burner on a medium high, and you can probably see that there's a pot behind it. I made chicken earlier today, and I am just making some broth. So I'm just going to continue making that broth as we do the video. So I did put my bacon in the Dutch oven, and then I realized that this bacon was pretty darn lean. So you're going to see that I'm going to add some olive oil to it in just a bit. Now I'm just going to stir in this olive oil and get the bacon cooking and really starting to brown. So it's important that our bacon browns. That's going to add some wonderful, wonderful flavor. And it's all about building some great flavors for our clam chowder. Hey guys, if you're enjoying the video and you haven't done so yet, I really wish that you would consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps my channel out a lot. I also appreciate any thumbs up or comments you might want to leave. Let me know how you make your clam chowder. I know everyone has their own recipe. This is one that I've grown up eating like this, and so I just thought I'd give it a share with you guys today. Next, we're going to put in our onions, and that was a large onion. And with that, I'm also going to salt my onions just a little bit. That's going to help release some of the juice from the onion and kind of help with some of that font building up on the bottom of the pot. And we're going to continue to stir. And as you can see that it's kind of building up on there, just go ahead and continue to stir. As you're stirring, make sure you're kind of scraping along the bottom of the pan. And I always use a wooden spoon, and this is because it doesn't scrape up my pans, and it works really well with this. I think at this point I'm going to add just a tiny bit of water as well to help release some of that from the bottom. And that is just going to add to the flavor of our clam chowder. So don't be afraid to do that if you need to do that. Here we go. And just a little bit will do it. And it's coming right off the bottom, as you can see through all of my steam there. And I'm just stirring it. And now I'm going to add my celery in with the onions. And like I said, it's about 1/4 cup of celery. If you don't like celery, you can leave it out. Build it the way you want to build it. This is just how I've done it. So we're just going to continue to stir until the celery and the onions are nice and tender. And Oh, it's starting to really smell good. There we go. Now, at this point, once they're starting to get tender, we're going to go in with our potatoes. And I'm just using my hands and lifting them out of the bowl of cold water. And as you can see, they're still nice and white. They didn't turn brown, which, yay, we like that. It's just going to make the clam chowder look even better. And if you did get a little brown on your potatoes, it's not going to hurt anything. So now we're just going to add just enough water to cover the potatoes, just barely cover the potatoes. You got to be real careful not to get too much water at this point, because all we want to do is start to cook those potatoes until they soften up. And then we're going to move on to our next step. So let's cover it, and we're going to let them simmer. So I've let them simmer for about 8 minutes or so. And now I'm going to check for the tenderness and see where we're at and give it a nice good stir. Now I use russet potatoes because they're pretty starchy, and we need the starchy potato because we're building a clam chowder and we want it nice and thick. So I did test the potato to make sure that it was tender, and it is. I went in with about a teaspoon of minced garlic, and I'm going to go in with about a teaspoon of seafood seasoning. This is a new one for me. This is Auntie Nono's seafood seasoning. Usually I use Old Bay, but I ran out, so I had to try something new. Now I'm going in with some onion powder, and it's about a teaspoon of onion powder as well. And now we've got some black pepper. And black pepper, I probably used about a teaspoon of black pepper. And listen, use it how you like it. If you don't like it too peppery, then don't put so much in. I'm going to go in with a little bit of sea salt as well. I would say it's probably about a teaspoon of sea salt. And I always measure with love. So, and then we're going to give it another taste just to make sure, if we need more seasonings later on. So we're going to give it a good stir. There we go. Now I have some clam juice. It's an 8-ounce bottle of clam juice. Now this is something when you're making clam chowder you really do need because it helps build that flavor. And then I've got 1 full can of evaporated milk. Now remember, it's evaporated because you do not want the sweetened milk, okay? And then I also went in with 1/3 cup of cream. I'm going to give that a nice stir, and we're going to let that come to a simmer. Now this next step is just a personal preference. I'm going in with my potato masher, and I'm just going to mash some of the potatoes, not all of them, just a few to kind of help with that creaminess. You could also use an immersion blender if you'd like. There we go. Oh, that is absolutely delicious, and it's coming along good. We're going to give it a good stir and make sure that all of those wonderful ingredients have really combined well. The next ingredient we're adding is clams, and I bought chopped clams, and I got 2 small cans of chopped clams. You can put in as many clams to this as you want to, but for me I like the chopped clams because I put them at the very end just before I finish up. That way they stay nice and tender, and they're very tasty. You can use whatever clams you like. You can use minced, you can use chopped, you can use as many as you like. But in this particular recipe that I'm building today, I use 2 cans. Now my potatoes aren't as starchy as I thought they might be, so I'm going to have to go in with just a little bit of cornstarch, and I mixed that with some cream, and I used 5 tablespoons of cornstarch and about 1/3 cup of cream, and I'm just whisking that in to blend it right into my clam chowder. And I'm going to let it simmer for just a little bit once I rinse that bowl out, and I want to make sure I get all of it. So we're going to stir that in. There we go, and look at that. That did it. It's nice and thick and oh so yummy. So we're going to continue to stir that just a little bit. We're going to simmer it for just a few more minutes, and then we are going to put our final touch to it. Okay, our final ingredient here is about a half a stick of butter. And we're going to stir that into our clam chowder, and it is ready to serve. Doesn't that look delicious? And we're going to serve it up right now. Let's give this a try. Delicious bite. Look at that. Doesn't that just look amazing? Mmm. Mmm. That is so good. Guys, don't be intimidated. It's super easy to make this clam chowder. The one thing I would say is put your clams in at the end because you don't want them to turn out like little rubber bands. So I always put my clams in at the end just before I serve my clam chowder, and they're always tender and amazing. Give this recipe a try, guys. You won't go wrong. Thanks now. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.